The gunfire stopped. That was the worst part. Chief Petty Officer Kara Voss lay motionless in the Afghan dust, blood pooling beneath her tactical vest. Through her scope, she had watched her team leader, Lieutenant Briggs, make the call. 2 fingers pointed at her position, then a cutting motion across his throat. The universal signal. She's gone. Leave her. The SEAL team vanished into the mountain pass within 30 seconds. What they did not know, what nobody in that valley knew, was that Kara Voss had survived worse than a Taliban ambush. And she had 4 Army Rangers to save. The pain came in waves. Kara tried to move her left arm, and white-hot agony exploded through her shoulder. Gunshot wound. The bullet had punched clean through, missing bone but shredding muscle. Her ribs screamed with every shallow breath. At least 3 broken, maybe 4. Her head throbbed where she had hit the rocks during the initial contact. Concussion. Definitely concussion. She counted backward from the moment the ambush started. 17 minutes ago. Her team had been moving through the valley on a reconnaissance patrol when the Taliban opened up from 3 sides. Textbook-shaped ambush. Kara had taken her shot, dropped the machine gunner on the ridge, then felt the impact slam into her shoulder. She went down hard. Lieutenant Briggs had been 30 meters ahead. She saw him look back, saw him assess the situation, saw him make his decision. The mission came first. 1 wounded SEAL was not worth risking the entire team. He gave a hand signal and moved out. Standard operating procedure. Leave no one behind was the creed. But when leaving someone behind meant the difference between mission success and total loss, commanders made hard choices. Briggs made his choice. Kara understood the logic. She even agreed with it in the abstract. What made her jaw clench was the speed of his decision. No hesitation. No second look. Like he had been waiting for an excuse. She forced herself to breathe slowly despite the grinding ribs. She needed to assess her tactical situation. Taliban fighters were moving through the area, searching for bodies and equipment. She could hear their voices, maybe 60 meters to her east. Pashto, arguing about something. Probably whether to pursue the fleeing Americans or secure the area first. Her position was partially concealed behind a cluster of rocks and scrub brush. The dust cloud from the firefight still hung in the air, providing some visual cover. But her blood trail would lead them right to her within minutes. Kara inventoried her gear without moving. M110 sniper rifle, pinned beneath her torso. SIG Sauer P226 pistol in her thigh holster. 3 magazines for the rifle, 2 for the pistol. Combat knife strapped to her calf. Medical kit on her belt. Radio on her vest. She keyed the radio with her right hand, keeping the movement minimal. Dead static, either damaged in the fall or Briggs had already switched to a different frequency. Of course he had. The Taliban voices grew closer. She could make out individual words now. They had found her blood trail. She had maybe 90 seconds before they reached her position. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you have known someone who proved doubters wrong when it mattered most. Kara closed her eyes and thought about her father. Staff Sergeant Daniel Voss, 75th Ranger Regiment. Killed in action in Mogadishu, 1993. She had been 6 years old. Her mother had begged her not to join the military. Begged her not to follow her father into war. But Kara had his blood, his stubborn refusal to quit, his need to prove something. She opened her eyes. The Taliban fighters were 40 meters away now. She could see them through gaps in the brush. 4 men. AK-47s. Scanning the ground. Following her blood. Then she heard it. Through her earpiece. Even with the main radio dead, she picked up cross chatter on an open frequency. American voices. Panicked. Calling for support that was not coming. Ranger frequency. She adjusted the dial carefully, zeroing in on the transmission. The voice was young, stressed, barely controlled. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chun, this is Viper 3-1. We're taking heavy fire from multiple positions. We have 1 man down critical, requesting immediate medevac and close air support. Over. The response came back cold and professional. Viper 3-1, negative on medevac. No birds available your area. Recommend you break contact and move to Rally Point Bravo. Over. Chun again, desperation creeping into his voice. We cannot break contact. We are surrounded. Estimate 20-plus enemy fighters. We need support now, or we are not making it out. Over. Silence. Then the professional voice again. Viper 3-1, no support available. Good luck out. They have been abandoned too. Kara turned her head slowly, ignoring the spike of pain from her ribs. She could see smoke rising to the east, maybe half a kilometer, right where Chun said they were pinned down. 4 Rangers. Surrounded. No support coming. Left to die. Just like her. The Taliban fighters were 20 meters away now. She could see their faces. Young men. Determined. Hunting. She had a choice. Stay hidden. Hope they missed her in their search. Survive to fight another day. It was a smart play. The logical play. The play that any rational operator would make. Or she could move. Toward the smoke. Toward 4 men she had never met. Toward a fight she could not win. Kara thought about Lieutenant Briggs walking away. She thought about her father, throwing himself on a grenade to save his squad. She thought about every male SEAL who had ever looked at her like she did not belong, like she was not good enough, like she was the weak link. She reached for her rifle with her right hand and began to crawl. The Taliban fighters found her blood trail exactly where she had been lying. They searched the rocks. They argued. They concluded she had crawled away. They began to follow her new trail. But Kara Voss was already gone, moving east, toward the gunfire, toward 4 Rangers who did not know help was coming, toward the impossible. Her shoulder screamed. Her ribs ground together with every movement. Blood ran down her arm and dripped into the dust. She kept crawling, because that was what her father would have done, because that was what Rangers did. Because leaving people behind was what cowards like Briggs did. And Kara Voss was many things. But she was not a coward. Every meter felt like a kilometer. Kara dragged herself through the Afghan dust, using her right arm and legs to propel her broken body forward. Her left arm hung useless, the shoulder wound leaking blood despite the hasty field dressing she had managed to wrap around it. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning her tactical gear into an oven. She had covered maybe 200 meters in 20 minutes. At this rate, the Rangers would be dead long before she reached them. She could still hear sporadic gunfire from their position. That meant they were still fighting, still alive, still buying time they did not have. Kara paused behind a low ridge to catch her breath and assess. The pain was becoming background noise now, a constant roar that she had learned to compartmentalize. SEAL training had taught her that. Hell Week, 5.5 days of continuous physical activity with a maximum total of 4 hours of sleep. Instructors screaming that women did not belong, that she would quit, that she was wasting everyone's time. She had not quit. She had outlasted 60% of her class, including a lot of men who thought they were tougher than her. The memory steadied her. She checked her rifle, still functional despite the dirt and blood. 14 rounds remaining in the current magazine. She had been counting each shot during the ambush. Old habit from her father. Daniel Voss had started teaching her to shoot when she was 8 years old. Her mother had hated it, but her father had been insistent. Kara, baby girl, listen to me. Shooting is not about strength. It is about patience, breathing, discipline. Those things do not care if you are a man or a woman. You understand? She had nodded, small hands gripping the rifle he had modified for her size. She understood. By the time she was 12, she could outshoot him. By 16, she was winning junior competitions across 3 states. By 22, she had the highest marksmanship scores in her SEAL class. The instructors had not known what to do with that. A woman who could shoot better than every man in the program. Lieutenant Briggs had never forgiven her for it. Kara pushed the thought away and focused on the present. She pulled out her rangefinder and scanned the area where the Rangers were pinned down. Smoke rising from multiple points. Muzzle flashes visible even in daylight. She counted at least 15 Taliban positions in a rough semicircle around a small compound. The Rangers had to be inside that compound, surrounded, outgunned, running out of time. She switched her radio back to their frequency. The chatter was terse now, controlled panic. Chen's voice. Walker, how many rounds you got left? Another voice, younger, with a Georgia accent. Maybe 30. Reeves has about the same. A third voice, barely audible over the gunfire. Okonkwo here. I am down to 1 magazine. Chen again. All right. We make every shot count. Wait for clean targets. Do not waste ammunition. Silence for a moment. Then the Georgia voice again. Sarge, nobody is coming for us, are they? Chen's response took too long. Kara could hear him wrestling with the truth. Walker, we are Rangers. We do not quit. We do not give up. We fight until we cannot fight anymore. You understand me? Roger that, Sarge. But Kara heard what Chen did not say. They were accepting death, making peace with it, preparing for the end. She keyed her radio. Her voice came out rougher than she intended, damaged from dust and dehydration. Staff Sergeant Chun, this is Chief Petty Officer Kara Voss, SEAL Team 7. Hold your position. Help is coming. The response was immediate. Confusion mixing with disbelief. Negative. We were informed SEAL Team extracted 10 minutes ago. You are not here. Kara chambered around, the metallic click satisfying despite her pain. Wrong. I am 200 meters west of your position, and I am not leaving without you. Long silence. She could imagine Chun processing this information, trying to determine if it was real or if he was hallucinating from stress. Finally, his voice came back. Chief, with all due respect, our situation is not survivable. We are surrounded by 20-plus enemy fighters. We have 1 casualty who needs immediate medevac. We have limited ammunition. If you're really out there, save yourself. Kara smiled despite the blood in her mouth. She had bitten her tongue during one of her falls and had not noticed until now. Sergeant, I did not crawl 200 meters through enemy territory to turn around. I'm going to even the odds. Keep your heads down. She found a firing position on the ridge. Not ideal. Exposed on the backside. But it gave her clear lines of sight to at least 6 Taliban positions. She settled the rifle into her shoulder, biting back a scream as the stock pressed against her broken ribs. Her left arm was useless for support, so she propped the barrel on a rock and adjusted her position. The first target was easy. Taliban fighter standing fully upright behind cover, firing an RPK machine gun toward the compound. Range, 340 meters. Wind, minimal. Elevation, slight downward angle. She adjusted for all of it in 2 seconds. Muscle memory, thousands of hours of practice. Her father's voice in her head. Breathe out slowly. Squeeze, do not pull. She fired. The fighter dropped. The machine gun went silent. Kara shifted to the second target before the first body hit the ground. Another fighter, this one kneeling behind a wall. Harder shot. Smaller target. Range, 400 meters. She compensated for the distance and fired. Target down. Third target. Fourth. Fifth. Each shot deliberate. Each shot precise. Each shot taking another weapon out of the fight. The Taliban fighters began to realize they had a new problem. Someone was shooting at them. Someone very accurate. They started scanning for the sniper position, moving erratically, taking cover. Good. That took pressure off the Rangers. Chen's voice crackled over the radio, all mixing with disbelief. Chief, did you just drop 6 targets in under 2 minutes? Kara ejected her spent magazine and loaded a fresh one. 8 rounds left in this one. She was burning through ammunition fast. 7 targets. I'm just getting started, but I need you to do something for me. Name it. Tell me about your wounded man. How bad is he? Okonkwo took shrapnel to the abdomen. We have him stabilized, but he needs a surgeon. Soon. Can he walk? Negative. We would have to carry him. Kara processed this. 4 Rangers. 1 critically wounded. 20 Taliban fighters, minus the 7 she had just eliminated. Still terrible odds. And she had maybe 20 rounds left total. But she had something else. Something the Taliban did not expect. Something that even her own SEAL team had underestimated. She had her father's legacy. The refusal to abandon the people who counted on her. Staff Sergeant Chun, I need you to trust me. When I tell you to move, you move. Understand? Chief, we do not even know you. You are about to. Stay ready. Kara settled back into her shooting position and began selecting targets. Each trigger pull bought the Rangers a few more seconds of life. Each successful shot chipped away at impossible odds. Her shoulder was numb now. The bleeding had slowed, but not stopped. Her ribs grated with every breath. Her head pounded with each heartbeat. She kept shooting, because 4 men she had never met were counting on her. Because leaving people behind was not who she was. Because her father was watching. And because Lieutenant Briggs needed to learn that Kara Voss did not quit. Kara had eliminated 12 Taliban fighters when the universe decided she had enough luck for one day. She was lining up her 13th shot, a difficult angle on a fighter using a doorway for cover, when she heard the scrape of boots on rock behind her. She froze. The sound came from maybe 10 meters back. Someone had found her position. Someone had been smart enough to track the sound of her rifle. Someone was flanking her. She could not turn around. Her rifle was pointed the wrong direction. Her left arm was useless. Her pistol was holstered on her right thigh, which meant reaching for it would require obvious movement. Movement that would get her killed. The boots scraped again. Closer. 8 meters. The fighter was being careful, probably trying to confirm she was alone before engaging. Kara made a decision. She kept her rifle pointed downrange and spoke in her radio, voice deliberately calm. Chun, I have a problem. Tango on my 6, approximately 8 meters. I'm going to be out of communication for about 30 seconds. Do not do anything stupid. Chin's response was immediate and tense. Chief, do you need support? Negative. I have it handled. Just be ready to move when I come back online. She released the radio and focused on the sounds behind her. The fighter was moving again. 6 meters now. She could hear his breathing. Controlled but elevated. He was nervous. Good. Nervous people made mistakes. 5 meters. She heard the distinctive click of a safety being released. AK-47. He was preparing to fire. 4 meters. Close enough. Kara rolled left, away from her rifle, ignoring the explosion of pain from her ribs. The movement was sudden and unexpected. The fighter fired, but his rounds hit where she had been a second before. Dirt and rock fragments sprayed across her back. Her right hand was already moving, not to her pistol, to the combat knife strapped to her calf. She ripped it free as she completed her roll, coming up on her knees, facing the fighter. He was young, maybe 19, eyes wide with surprise at finding a woman sniper. He was trying to bring his AK around for a second shot. But he was 3 meters away, and Kara had been throwing knives since she was 10 years old. Her father's voice. Baby girl, a knife is not just for cutting. It is a ranged weapon if you know how to use it. Distance. Rotation. Follow through. Just like shooting. She threw. The knife rotated once and buried itself in the fighter's throat. He dropped the AK and clutched at the blade, making wet, choking sounds. He fell to his knees, then to his side, then stopped moving. Kara crawled to him, retrieved her knife, and wiped it clean on his jacket. She checked his body quickly. 2 spare magazines for the AK, a Chinese-made radio, a cell phone. She took the magazines and the radio, left the phone. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline dump. She had killed men before, at distance, through a scope, clean, professional, detached. But this was different. This was close enough to see his eyes, close enough to hear his last breath. She pushed the feeling down, compartmentalized it, dealt with it later or not at all. Right now, for Rangers needed her functional. She crawled back to her rifle and keyed the radio. Chun still there? His voice came back immediately, relief evident. Affirmative, Chief. Situation? Handled. Stand by. She checked the enemy radio she had taken. It was receiving chatter in Pashto. She did not speak the language fluently, but she knew enough tactical terminology to get the general idea. The Taliban were calling for reinforcements. A lot of reinforcements. The translated term she recognized made her blood run cold. 50 fighters. Technicals with mounted weapons. ETA 20 minutes. She switched back to Chen's frequency. Sergeant, we have a serious problem. Enemy reinforcements inbound. Approximately 50 fighters. 20 minutes out. Long silence. Then Chen's voice, flat, and accepting. Roger. Chief, you should extract while you can. This is over. Kara scanned the compound through her scope. She could see movement inside. 4 shapes. The Rangers had taken positions at windows and doorways, creating a defensive perimeter around their wounded man. They were professionals, doing everything right, but it would not matter. 50 fighters would overrun them in minutes, unless she changed the equation. She studied the terrain between her position and the compound. 200 meters of open ground, scattered rocks, a dry irrigation ditch, no real cover. The Taliban fighters still surrounding the compound would have clear shots at anyone trying to cross. But most of those fighters were now focused on finding her, the sniper who had killed 12 of their friends. They were looking up at the ridgeline, scanning for a concealed position, not watching the ground between her and the compound. Karachikit had ammunition, 6 rounds in her current rifle magazine, 2 full magazines remaining, 14 rounds total. Her pistol had 2 magazines, 30 rounds combined, 50 total rounds against 50 incoming fighters, plus the 8 or 9 still surrounding the compound. Terrible odds. Impossible. Her father would have loved it. She keyed the radio. Chun, I'm coming to you. When I say move, I need you and your men to lay down suppressive fire on the eastern positions. Everything you have. Understood? Chief, you cannot cross that ground. They will cut you down. Probably. But I'm doing it anyway. Are you ready? Silence. Then Chen's voice, different now. Respectful. We are ready, Chief. Kara took 3 deep breaths. The first one hurt. The second one hurt worse. The third one she barely felt. She was moving past pain now, into that place her instructors had tried to break during Hell Week. The place where the body was screaming to stop, but the mind simply refused. She slung her rifle across her back, drew her pistol, checked the chamber. Ready. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Move. The Rangers opened fire. The eastern Taliban positions erupted with incoming rounds. Not accurate. The Rangers were running low on ammunition and could not afford to aim carefully. But it did not matter. The sudden barrage made the fighters duck and take cover. Kara ran. She sprinted down the ridge, her broken ribs grinding with every step. Her useless left arm flopped against her side. Blood from her shoulder wound soaked through her dressing and ran down her chest. Her vision blurred from the concussion. She ran anyway. 50 meters. A Taliban fighter spotted her and swung his weapon around. She fired twice without breaking stride. Both rounds hit center mass. He went down. 100 meters. 2 fighters emerged from cover. She dropped the first one with a headshot. The second one got a burst off that missed her by inches. She put 3 rounds into him and kept moving. 150 meters. Her lungs were burning. Her legs felt like concrete. Every impact of her boots on the ground sent fresh spikes of agony through her ribs. The compound was right there. Chun was at the doorway, rifle up, covering her approach. Walker and Reeves were at the windows, still firing to keep the Taliban suppressed. Kara covered the last 50 meters in a final desperate sprint. She hit the doorway, and Chun grabbed her tactical vest, hauling her inside. She collapsed against the wall, gasping for air that would not come. Chun was staring at her like she was a ghost. You just crossed 200 meters of open ground under fire. Kara managed a pained smile. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Walker appeared, a lean man in his mid-20s with a Georgia drawl. Chief, you're bleeding pretty bad. I noticed. Where is your wounded man? Reeves, a stocky soldier with a baby face, pointed to the back room. Okonkwo is in there. Sergeant Chun has been keeping him stable. Kara forced herself upright and moved to the back room. Private First Class Jake Okonkwo lay on a makeshift stretcher, his face gray with blood loss. A pressure dressing covered his abdomen, but blood was seeping through. He was maybe 20 years old. Maybe. He opened his eyes when she entered. You are the SEAL sniper. Kara knelt beside him, her own pain forgotten. Yeah. How you doing, Private? Been better, Chief. He tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. Did you really crawl through enemy territory to save us? Something like that. You just focus on staying alive. We're getting you out of here. How? His voice was weak, but the question was valid. Kara looked at Chun, who had followed her into the room. Good question. How are we getting out of here? Chin's expression said everything. We are not. We hold until the ammunition runs out. Then we make our last stand. Ranger Creed. We do not leave our fallen. Kado understood. Respected it, but refused to accept it. There is another way. Chin stared at Kara with a mixture of hope and skepticism. What other way, Chief? We are surrounded, outgunned, and have one man who cannot walk. Reinforcements are not coming. We checked multiple times. Kara pulled out the Taliban radio she had taken from the fighter who tried to flank her. She held it up. They're using unencrypted communications. I have been listening. Their reinforcements are coming from the north on a single road. No alternate routes through this terrain. Walker stepped closer, interest sparking in his eyes. You thinking an ambush? Kara shook her head. We do not have the people or ammunition for an effective ambush. But we do not need to stop them. We just need to delay them. How? Reeves asked. There is an extraction point 8 clicks north of here. Emergency rally point for SEAL operations in this sector. It is compromised now since Briggs abandoned it, but there is a vehicle cache there. 2 modified Humvees. Armored. Fueled. Ready to go. Chin was following her logic now. 8 clicks. That is 5 miles. We would have to carry Okonkwo the entire way through enemy territory. Kara met his eyes. Yes, but if we can get there, we can drive to friendly lines. 15 clicks west, there is a Marine firebase. We get to those Humvees, we have a chance. It is suicide, Chin said flatly. We would never make it carrying a wounded man. The Taliban would run us down in minutes. You are right, Kara agreed. Unless someone stays behind to buy you time. The room went silent. Chin understood immediately. No, absolutely not. We do not leave people behind. That is not how Rangers operate. Kara allowed herself a bitter smile. SEALs apparently operate differently. Lieutenant Briggs taught me that today. Chin's jaw tightened. Chief, I do not know what happened with your team, but we are not doing that. We all go or we all stay. Noble. Kara pulled herself to her feet, gritting her teeth against the pain. But stupid. You have a wounded man who will die without medical attention. You have a clear route to extraction if someone delays the reinforcements. The math is simple. Walker spoke up, his Georgia accent thicker with emotion. We just met you. We are not letting you sacrifice yourself for us. You do not have a choice, Kara said quietly. I'm the ranking operator here, and I'm making the call. You 3 get Okonkwo to those Humvees. I will hold the Taliban here long enough for you to get clear. Chun stepped forward, his expression hardening. With respect, Chief, screw your rank. We are not abandoning you the way your team abandoned you. That is not who we are. Kara felt something crack inside her chest. Not her ribs. Something deeper. These men had known her for less than an hour, and they were willing to die rather than leave her behind. Meanwhile, Briggs had worked with her for 6 months and cut her loose without hesitation. She turned away so they would not see her face. Then what do you suggest, Sergeant? Chin was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we split up. 2 groups. Walker and Reeves take Okonkwo to the extraction point. You and I stay behind to delay the reinforcements. Once Walker confirms they have the vehicles, we break contact and follow. We all make it out, or none of us do. Kara turned back to him. That is still a suicide mission for whoever stays behind. 2 people against 50 fighters. Chin smiled grimly. Then I guess we better make every shot count. Besides, I heard you were a pretty decent shot. Despite everything, Kara felt herself smile back. I have had some practice. Walker and Reeves exchanged glances. Reeves spoke first. Sarge, you sure about this? We should be the ones staying. Chin shook his head. You 2 are the fastest. You can move Okonkwo quicker than Chief Voss, and I could in our current condition. No offense, Chief. None taken. My ribs are basically gravel at this point. Walker looked torn. But Sarge, if you do not make it back, then you tell everyone that we died doing our jobs. Chin interrupted. You tell them we did not quit. You tell them we held the line. Understood? Walker nodded slowly. Understood. Kara checked her watch. We have maybe 15 minutes before those reinforcements arrive. We need to move now. Walker, Reeves, get Okonkwo ready for transport. Chun and I will set up a delaying position. The two younger rangers moved to comply. Chun pulled out his map and spread it on the floor. He and Kara studied the terrain together. Here, Chun pointed to a narrow pass about 400 meters north of their current position. The road funnels through this gap. They will have to slow down to navigate it. If we position ourselves on the high ground on either side, we can create a kill box. Kara nodded. Agreed. But we need to be mobile. Hit them, displace, hit them again. We cannot stay in one position or they will flank us. Chun traced a route on the map. We leapfrog back toward the extraction point. I move and shoot, you cover. Then you move and I cover. We trade off. It could work. Kara looked at the distance. If we can delay them for 30 minutes, Walker and Reeves should be able to get Okonkwo far enough ahead that the Taliban will not catch them. Big if. Huge if. They stared at each other. Two soldiers who had never met before today, about to trust each other with their lives. Chun extended his hand. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chun, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. Father was Army. Mother was Army. Brother died in this country 3 years ago. I promised him I would never leave anyone behind. Kara shook his hand with her good arm. Chief Petty Officer Kara Voss. SEAL Team 7. Father was a Ranger. 75th Regiment. Died in Mogadishu, saving his squad. I promised him I would live up to his example. Chin's eyebrows rose. Your father was a Ranger? Staff Sergeant Daniel Voss. Bravo Company. Chin's expression shifted to something like awe. I know that name. They still tell stories about him at Benning. He earned a Silver Star posthumously. Kara nodded, not trusting her voice. Chun straightened. Then I guess we have some legacies to live up to. You ready, Chief? As ready as I'm going to be with 3 broken ribs and a hole in my shoulder. Walker and Reeves appeared with Okonkwo between them. The young private draped across an improvised stretcher made from tactical gear and poles. Okonkwo's eyes were glassy, but he was conscious. The private looked at Kara and Chun. You are really staying behind for us. Kara crouched next to him, ignoring her screaming ribs. Private, your job is to survive. Get to those Humvees. Get to the firebase. Tell them what happened here. Our job is to make sure you have the time to do that. Can you handle your job? Okonkwo's voice was weak, but determined. Yes, Chief. Good man. Walker gripped Chin's shoulder. We will see you at the extraction point, Sarge. You better. And Walker? If we do not make it, you tell my wife I love her. Tell her I did not quit. Walker's voice was thick. You can tell her yourself when we all get home. Chin nodded, not believing it but appreciating the sentiment. Kara and Chun watched as Walker and Reeves carried Okonkwo out through the back of the compound, moving quickly into the gathering dusk. Within seconds, they disappeared into the terrain. Chun checked his rifle. 18 rounds. Karachikit Hers. 14 rifle. 28 pistol. 32 total for me, Chun said. So we have 64 rounds between us against 50 fighters with unlimited ammunition and reinforcements. I have had better odds. Karasimilit Darki. Where's the fun in that? They moved to the narrow pass, taking positions on opposite ridges. The sun was setting, painting the Afghan mountains in shades of red and gold. In another context, it would have been beautiful. Kara settled into her firing position and keyed her radio. Chun, you in position? Affirmative. I have eyes on the northern approach. Good. Remember, we make every shot count. We do not engage unless we can get kills. The goal is delay, not total destruction. Understood. They waited. The mountains were quiet except for the wind. Kara used the time to tighten her shoulder dressing and wrap her ribs as best she could with one working arm. Every breath was agony, but she forced herself to breathe deeply anyway. Shallow breathing led to panic. Panic led to mistakes. Then she heard it, the rumble of engines. Multiple vehicles moving fast. Chin's voice came through the radio. I count 4 technicals. Estimate 40 to 50 fighters. They're moving into the pass now. Kara sighted through her scope. The first vehicle was a Toyota pickup with a mounted machine gun. Fighters packed into the bed, weapons ready, expecting a fight. They were about to get one. On my mark, Kara said softly. We hit the lead vehicle first. Disable it. Create a roadblock. Force them to dismount. Roger. Kara centered her crosshairs on the driver of the lead vehicle. Breathe out slowly. Remembered her father's voice. Patience. Discipline. She squeezed the trigger. The driver's head snapped back, and the technical veered sharply left, slamming into the rock wall of the narrow pass. The vehicle behind it could not stop in time. Metal screamed as the two trucks collided. Fighters tumbled from the beds of both vehicles, shouting in confusion and anger. Chen opened fire from his position across the pass. 3-round bursts. Controlled. Professional. 2 fighters went down before the others found cover. The Taliban had driven straight into a perfect kill box. The narrow pass gave them nowhere to maneuver. The high ground gave Kara and Chun superior firing positions. For the moment, the advantage was theirs. But it would not last. Kara shifted targets. A fighter trying to man the mounted machine gun on the second technical. She fired. He collapsed across the weapon. She fired again, this time at the ammunition belt feeding the gun. The rounds cooked off in a stuttering chain of explosions. The fighter's body jerked and fell away. Return fire began peppering the ridgeline. The Taliban had located her muzzle flash. Rounds cracked past her head and sparked off the rocks around her. Time to move. She low-crawled backward 20 meters to her secondary position. Chen was already displacing from his side of the pass. They had practiced this leapfrog pattern in the 15 minutes before the Taliban arrived. Move, shoot, communicate. Basic small unit tactics. But against 50 fighters, basic would only get them so far. Kara keyed her radio as she settled into her new position. Chen status? 5 confirmed kills. Moving to position 2 now. Copy. I am in position 2. Engaging. She sighted on a fighter, trying to organize the others. He was screaming orders and pointing up at the ridgeline. Probably a squad leader. High-value target. She compensated for wind and distance and squeezed. The fighter dropped mid-sentence. The Taliban response was immediate and overwhelming. Every weapon in the pass opened fire at the ridgeline. Rockets streaked overhead. Machine gun rounds chewed up the landscape. The sheer volume of fire was terrifying. Kara pressed herself flat against the rocks and waited for the barrage to subside. Her radio crackled. Chen's voice was tight with stress. Chief, they're trying to flank us. I see movement on both sides of the pass. Expected. How many? At least a dozen moving up the eastern slope. Probably the same on your side. Kara risked a quick look. He was right. Taliban fighters were scrambling up the western slope, using the rocks for cover, trying to reach her position. They were still 300 meters away, but closing fast. She checked her ammunition. 9 rounds left in her current magazine. This was going to get ugly. Chun, we need to fall back to position 3. They're going to overrun us if we stay here. Agreed. On your mark. Kara fired 3 quick shots at the fighters climbing toward her. 2 hits. 1 miss. The survivors took cover, but the advance stalled. She used the moment to grab her gear and move. The third position was another 200 meters back, closer to the extraction route. It offered less ideal firing angles but better escape routes. The Taliban would have to work harder to flank them. Kara made it to position 3 and immediately set up her rifle. Below, the Taliban were reorganizing. The vehicles that had not crashed were backing out of the kill box. Smart. They were going to try to bypass the pass or wait for the flanking teams to clear the ridges. Her radio crackled. Chief, I'm taking fire. Multiple contacts. I need to displace now. Do it. I will cover. Kara began firing at the fighters on Chen's side of the pass. Not trying for precision shots now. Just suppression. Keeping heads down while Chen moved. She burned through 6 rounds in 30 seconds. Chen's voice came back, breathless. Clear. Moving to position 3. Kara waited, scanning for targets. The Taliban flanking teams had reached position 2. They would find it empty and push forward. She had maybe 5 minutes before they reached position 3. Maybe less. Her shoulder wound had reopened during the movement. Fresh blood soaked her dressing. Her ribs felt like someone was stabbing her with every breath. Her vision was starting to blur at the edges. Blood loss. Dehydration. Salt. Take your pick. She keyed the radio to Walker's frequency. Walker, this is Voss. Status? Walker's response came back after a long pause. We are approximately 2 clicks from extraction point. Okonkwo is stable. How are you holding up? We have delayed the main force, but they are flanking us. We're falling back to position 3. How much longer do you need? Give us 20 minutes to reach the vehicles and get them started. Can you hold that long? Kara looked at the Taliban fighters swarming over the ridgelines. 20 minutes. Against this many enemies. With almost no ammunition left. While bleeding out from multiple wounds. Affirmative, she lied. 20 minutes. We will be there. She switched back to Chen's frequency just as he slid into position beside her, breathing hard. He had blood on his face from a cut above his eye. His rifle was nearly empty. He looked at her, and she knew he had heard her promise to Walker. 20 minutes, he said quietly. That is optimistic. I prefer the term hopeful. Chen checked his ammunition. I have got 11 rounds left. Kara did the math. 8 in her rifle. 28 in her pistol. 36 total. 47 rounds between them, against at least 40 remaining fighters. We're going to need to get creative, she said. Chen pulled out 2 grenades from his vest. I have been saving these for a special occasion. Kara smiled despite the pain. I think we found it. The Taliban flanking teams were visible now, advancing carefully, using proper cover and movement. These were not untrained fighters. These were experienced combat veterans. Chen studied their approach. If we let them get close enough, we can hit both flanking teams with the grenades. Create chaos. Use the confusion to fall back. Kara nodded. Then we run, fast and hard, toward the extraction point. We do not stop. We do not engage unless absolutely necessary. We just run. With 3 broken ribs and a gunshot wound? With 3 broken ribs and a gunshot wound. Chen looked at her with something like admiration. Your father would be proud. The words hit harder than any bullet. Kara had to blink back sudden tears. She had spent her entire adult life trying to live up to Daniel Voss's legacy, trying to prove she was worthy of his sacrifice. And here, in the Afghan mountains, bleeding and surrounded, a ranger she barely knew was telling her she had succeeded. Let's make sure we live to tell him about it, she managed. The Taliban fighters were within grenade range now. Kara could see their faces. Young men, determined, believing they were righteous, about to learn otherwise. Chen pulled the pin on his first grenade. On 3. On 3. 1, 2, 3. They threw simultaneously. The grenades arced through the air and landed in the middle of both flanking teams. Fighters shouted warnings. Some dove for cover. Some froze. The explosions were nearly simultaneous. Screams, confusion, dust and smoke. Kara and Chen were already moving. They ran along the ridge, heading north toward the extraction point. Behind them, the Taliban regrouped and opened fire. Bullets cracked through the air, ricocheted off rocks, kicked up dirt. Kara's lungs were burning. Her ribs were grinding. Her legs felt like they were made of wet sand. She stumbled and nearly went down. Chen grabbed her good arm and kept her upright. Keep moving, he shouted over the gunfire. Do not stop. They ran. The terrain became rougher. Rocky outcroppings, steep drops, loose gravel. Kara's boots slipped constantly. Each fall sent fresh spikes of agony through her broken ribs. Each time, she forced herself back to her feet. Chen stayed with her, never leaving her behind. When she fell, he helped her up. When she slowed, he slowed with her, living up to the Ranger creed, never leaving a fallen comrade. Her radio crackled. Walker's voice. Chief, we have the vehicles. We're starting them now. Where are you? Kara could barely breathe enough to speak. 1 click south of your position. Under heavy pursuit. We need immediate extraction. Roger. We're coming to you. Stay alive. The Taliban were right behind them now. Close enough that Kara could hear their shouts. Close enough that bullets were hitting within meters. Close enough to smell the dust they kicked up. She turned and fired her pistol blindly behind her. 3 shots. 4. Just to make them hesitate. Just to buy a few more seconds. Chen did the same. Firing on the move. Not aiming. Just shooting. They crested a ridge, and Kara saw the most beautiful sight of her life. 2 armored Humvees racing toward them across the desert floor. Walker at the wheel of the lead vehicle. Reeves manning the mounted gun on top. The Humvees skidded to a stop. Walker was screaming at them. Get in. Get in now. Kara and Chun half ran, half fell down the slope. Taliban fighters appeared on the ridge behind them. Reeves opened up with a mounted gun. 50 caliber rounds tore into the ridgeline. Fighters dove for cover. Chun reached the Humvee first. He threw himself into the back, turned and reached for Kara. She was 10 feet away, 5 feet. Then her legs gave out. She went down hard, could not get up. Her body had nothing left. Chun jumped out of the Humvee. He grabbed her tactical vest and hauled her bodily into the vehicle. Walker punched the accelerator before Chun even had the door closed. The Humvee lurched forward. Reeves was still firing. Brass casings rained down into the vehicle. Taliban rounds pinged off the armor. Kara lay on the floor of the Humvee, gasping for air, everything hurting, vision fading. Chin's face appeared above her. You did it, Chief. We all made it. You did it. She tried to smile, but darkness was closing in fast. She heard Walker shouting something. Heard Chin responding. Heard the roar of the engine and the chatter of the gun. Then she heard her father's voice, clear as day. You did good, baby girl. You did real good. And then there was nothing. Kara woke to the sound of diesel engines and the smell of antiseptic. Her first thought was that she was dead. Her second thought was that heaven had terrible interior design. She opened her eyes to find herself staring at the canvas ceiling of a medical tent. 4 tubes ran in her left arm. Monitors beeped steadily beside her cot. Her shoulder and ribs were wrapped in fresh bandages that smelled of iodine and gauze. A face appeared in her field of vision. A Navy corpsman, young, with tired eyes. Welcome back, Chief. You gave us quite a scare. Where am I? Her voice came out as a rasp. Marine, Firebase Delta. Your ranger friends drove you here 3 days ago. You have been unconscious since. Combination of blood loss, dehydration, and your body finally admitting you were hurt. 3 days. Kara tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Her ribs screamed in protest. Easy, the corpsman said, gently pushing her back down. You've got 3 broken ribs, 1 fractured. Gunshot wound to the shoulder that somehow missed all the important bits. Severe concussion, various lacerations, and contusions. You are lucky to be alive. The Rangers, where are they? Waiting outside. They have been here every day. Should I let them know you are awake? Karan nodded. The corpsman left, and within seconds Chun appeared, followed by Walker and Reeves. All 3 were cleaned up, wearing fresh uniforms, looking like actual soldiers instead of the dust-covered ghosts she remembered. Chun approached her cot, his expression a mix of relief and respect. Chief Voss, good to see you with your eyes open. Good to be seen. How is Okonkwo? Alive because of you. Walker smiled. He is in surgery now. They are repairing the damage from the shrapnel. Docs say he will make a full recovery. Probably going to get a medical discharge with full benefits, but he will walk again. Live a normal life. Kara felt something loosen in her chest. That was the mission. Get him to medical care. She looked at each of them. You all made it. All 4 of you. Because you stayed behind, Chin said quietly. Because you bought us the time we needed. Because you refused to leave us. I seem to recall you staying behind too, Sergeant. Chin shrugged. Someone had to make sure you did not get all the glory. Reeves stepped forward, his baby face serious. Chief, we told command what happened. Everything. How your SEAL team left you. How you came for us anyway. How you carried Okonkwo out with us. Kara's stomach tightened. What did command say? Walker and Chin exchanged glances. Chin spoke. There is a lot happening above our pay grade right now. Your SEAL commander is here, at the firebase. Want to talk to you. Briggs is here. Not just Briggs. Chin's expression darkened. Your entire team. And a Navy investigator. Apparently, when 4 Army Rangers show up at a Marine firebase with an unconscious female SEAL who is supposed to be dead, people start asking questions. Kara closed her eyes. Of course they did. She had become a problem. Evidence of Briggs's decision. A witness to his abandonment. Walker spoke up. Chief, we gave sworn statements. All 4 of us. We told them exactly what happened. How you saved us. How Briggs left you to die. They cannot cover this up. They can try, Kara said quietly. Briggs is connected. His uncle is an admiral. He has powerful friends. And I am just a female SEAL who cannot hack it. Bullshit, Chen said sharply. You are the SEAL who carried 4 Rangers 8 clicks through enemy territory while bleeding from a gunshot wound with 3 broken ribs. You are the SEAL who held off 50 Taliban fighters with almost no ammunition. You are the SEAL who earned a place in the Ranger Hall of Fame, if we had any say in it. Kara opened her eyes and looked at him. Chen's expression was fierce, protective. These men barely knew her, but they were ready to go to war for her. There is something else you should know, Reeves said. He pulled out his phone and showed her a screen. It was a news article. The headline read, Female Navy SEAL declared dead, returns 3 days later after rescuing 4 Army Rangers. The story had leaked. Somehow, despite military protocol and operational security, the story had gotten out. Kara skimmed the article. It had quotes from unnamed sources, details about the mission, speculation about why she had been left behind. How did this happen? She asked. Chen smiled slightly. Funny thing, Walker's cousin works for a military news website. Walker might have sent him some details. Off the record, of course. Walker tried to look innocent. I may have mentioned a few things in an email home. Can't remember exactly. You leaked it, Kara said. You went public. We documented it, Chen corrected. There is a difference. We made sure your side of the story got out before Briggs could bury it. Now there are reporters asking questions. Congressmen making calls. Your story is not going away, Chief. Before Kara could respond, the tent flap opened. A Navy captain entered, followed by Lieutenant Briggs and 3 other SEAL team members. Briggs looked exactly as Kara remembered. Square jaw, cold eyes, absolute confidence in his own righteousness. The captain spoke first. Gentlemen, I need a moment alone with Chief Voss. The Rangers did not move. Chen looked at Kara. Chief, do you want us to stay? Kara met Briggs's eyes. She saw calculation there. Assessment. He was trying to determine how much damage she could do to him. No, she said quietly. I'll be fine. Chen nodded reluctantly. We'll be right outside. All you heard that, right? He looked directly at Briggs and the other SEALs. Right outside. The Rangers left. The tent felt smaller with just the SEALs and the captain. The captain cleared his throat. Chief Voss, I'm Captain Morrison, JAG Corps. I have been assigned to investigate the events of 3 days ago. I need to ask you some questions. Understood, sir. Morrison pulled out a recorder. This interview is being recorded. Do you consent? I do. Good. Can you tell me, in your own words, what happened during the mission? Kara told the story. Factually, dispassionately. The ambush. Her wounds. Briggs's decision to leave her. Her choice to save the Rangers. The extraction. She left nothing out. Briggs's expression never changed, but his eyes got colder with every word. When she finished, Morrison turned to Briggs. Lieutenant, Chief Voss claims you made the decision to leave her behind during the ambush. Can you explain your reasoning? Briggs spoke smoothly. Captain, we were under heavy fire. I assessed Chief Voss's wounds and determined she was not going to survive. Staying to retrieve her would have endangered the entire team. I made the tactical decision to preserve the mission and the lives of my men. You did not check her vitals? Morrison asked. There was no time, sir. The enemy was closing in. I made the call based on visual assessment and experience. And when did you realize she might have survived? When we returned to base and began debriefing, one of my team members mentioned hearing radio chatter about Rangers being extracted with a SEAL casualty. We investigated and discovered it was Chief Voss. Morrison made note. And your reaction? Relief that she survived. Surprised that she managed to reach friendly forces with her injuries. Did it surprise you that she rescued 4 Army Rangers while wounded? For the first time, Briggs hesitated. It did, sir. Chief Voss has always been dedicated, but this was beyond what I thought she was capable of. Kara spoke up. Because you never thought I was capable of anything, did you, Lieutenant? Briggs looked at her. Chief Voss, you were a competent team member, but the physical demands of SEAL operations are extreme. I had concerns about whether you could perform under stress. I performed under more stress than you will ever face, Kara said quietly. I performed while bleeding out, while abandoned. while carrying 4 men to safety. What were your concerns then? Morrison held up a hand. Chief, please. Let me ask the questions. He turned back to Briggs. Lieutenant, I have statements from 4 Army Rangers claiming that you have a history of undermining Chief Voss, of questioning her abilities in front of the team, of giving her the most dangerous assignments. How do you respond? The Rangers do not know the context, Briggs said stiffly. Every team member receives difficult assignments. That is part of training and operations. Morrison pulled out a file. I also have reports from 3 other SEAL teams. Reports that mention your resistance to having a female operator on your team. Complaints you filed about Chief Voss's qualifications. Requests to have her transferred. All denied by command. It paints a picture, Lieutenant. Briggs's jaw tightened. I have the highest respect for any operator who earns the Trident, but I also have a responsibility to my team's effectiveness. Morrison closed the file. Lieutenant Briggs, based on the evidence I have gathered, I am recommending you be relieved of command pending a formal investigation. There will be a court-martial to determine if your actions constitute dereliction of duty and reckless endangerment. Briggs went pale. Sir, I was acting in the best interest of my team. You left a team member to die without proper assessment, Morrison said flatly. Whether there was tactical judgment or personal bias will be determined by the court-martial. You are dismissed. Briggs stood, his face a mask of controlled rage. He looked at Kara one last time. This is not over, Chief. Actually, Morrison said, it is. You are forbidden from contacting Chief Voss. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Now get out of my sight. Briggs left, followed by the other SEALs. Morrison turned to Kara. Chief Voss, you showed extraordinary courage under impossible circumstances. The Navy owes you an apology and an explanation, neither of which will be sufficient. But I want you to know that justice will be served here. Kara nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Morrison stood. Rest. Recover. When you are ready, we will need a full deposition. But for now, know that your service has not gone unnoticed. Those 4 Rangers are alive because of you. After Morrison left, Chun poked his head back into the tent. You okay, Chief? Kara wiped her eyes. Yeah, I am okay. Better than okay. 2 weeks later, Kara was cleared for limited duty. Her shoulder was healing, but would need months of physical therapy. Her ribs were still tender, but functional. The concussion symptoms had mostly faded. Physically, she was recovering. Mentally was another story. She found herself drawn to the makeshift gym on the firebase. Not to work out. Her doctors would have killed her. Just to watch the Rangers train. Chun, Walker, and Reeve had extended their stay to provide support during the investigation. They moved through their drills with the precision she recognized from her own training. Different branch. Same dedication. Chun spotted her watching and walked over, toweling off sweat. You're supposed to be resting, Chief. I am resting, just with my eyes open. He smiled and sat beside her. How are you really doing? Kara considered lying. Decided against it. I keep thinking about those 30 seconds. When Briggs looked at me. When he made the decision. I keep wondering what I could have done differently to make him see me as worth saving. Chun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, you could not have done anything differently. The problem was never you. It was him, his prejudice, his ego, his inability to see past what he expected you to be. I know that intellectually, but it still hurts. Of course it does. He abandoned you to die. That is not something you just get over. Chun paused. Can I tell you about my brother? Kara nodded. Michael was 2 years older than me. He joined the Rangers first. I followed because I wanted to be like him. We deployed together to Afghanistan in 2021. Different companies, but same area of operations. One day his convoy hit an IED. 3 men died instantly. Michael and 2 others were trapped in the burning vehicle. Their team leader made the call to pull back. Said it was too dangerous to attempt a rescue. The vehicle might explode. More men could die. Chen's voice went flat, but a staff sergeant from another unit did not listen. Guy named Torres. He ran into the flames, pulled Michael out, went back for the other 2, saved all 3 of them, burned his hands so badly he could not hold a rifle anymore. They medically retired him with full honors. Michael survived because Torres refused to accept that some lives were expendable. What happened to your brother? He died 6 months later. Different mission, different circumstances. But those 6 months mattered. You gotta video call our parents. Gotta tell them he loved them. Gotta make peace with things. Because Torres gave him that time. Chun looked at Kara directly. You are Torres' chief. You gave 4 men time they would not have had. Okonkwo gets to go home to his family. We all do. Because you refused to accept that we were expendable. Kara felt tears building. How do I move forward from this? How do I trust another SEAL team after what Briggs did? Chun shrugged. Maybe you do not go back to the SEALs. Maybe you do something different. You have options now. The story is out. People know what you did. You have leverage. Before Kara could respond, Walker jogged over, his phone in hand. Chief, you need to see this. He handed her the phone. It showed a news article from a major military publication. The headline read, Navy SEAL Commander recommends female operator for Navy Cross after unprecedented rescue mission. Kara read quickly. The article detailed her actions in Afghanistan. The rescue of 4 Rangers. The 8-kilometer carry under fire. The tactical delay of 50 enemy fighters. It quoted unnamed Pentagon sources saying she was being recommended for the Navy Cross, the second highest military decoration. This cannot be real, she whispered. It is Reset joining them. Captain Morrison told us this morning. The recommendation is moving up the chain. They are saying it is a done deal. Kara handed the phone back, her hands shaking. I just did what anyone would do. No, Chun said firmly. You did what most people say they would do, but never actually do when it counts. You sacrificed yourself for strangers. You carried impossible weight through impossible circumstances. You earned this. A voice called from across the gym. Chief Voss. A young Marine stood at attention. Ma'am, you have a visitor. Captain Morrison asked me to bring you to the conference room. Karastut, Sitidin Herseif. The Rangers moved to follow, but she shook her head. I need to do this alone. Chun gripped her shoulder. We will be here when you are done. Kara followed the Marine to a small conference room. Inside, Captain Morrison stood beside a woman in civilian clothes. Late 50s, gray hair pulled back, intelligent eyes that had seen too much. Chief Voss, Morrison said. This is Rebecca Voss. She indicated the woman. Kara's heart stopped. Mom? Her mother stepped forward, tears already streaming down her face. Oh, baby, my baby girl. They met in the middle of the room. Her mother wrapped her in a careful hug, mindful of her injuries. Kara buried her face in her mother's shoulder and felt something break inside her. All the pain, all the fear, all the loneliness of being left to die. It poured out in racking sobs. Her mother held her, murmuring the same things she had when Kara was a child. I have got you. You are safe. I am here. Morrison quietly left the room. When Kara finally pulled back, her mother cupped her face in her hands. I am so sorry. For everything. For fighting you when you wanted to join. For trying to make you someone you were not. For not seeing that you were always meant to be a warrior like your father. Mom, you were trying to protect me. I was trying to keep you from getting hurt. Her mother's voice broke. But you got hurt anyway. Because of men who did not value you. Because of a system that failed you. And I was not there. You are here now. They sat at the conference table. Her mother pulled out a folder. I have been doing research since I heard what happened. Did you know your father's squad gave statements after Mogadishu? About what he did. How he saved them. Kara shook her head. Her mother opened the folder and pulled out old photocopied documents. They called him the bravest man they had ever known. They said he never hesitated when his squad needed him. They said he taught them that real strength is not about muscle. It is about heart, about refusing to quit when quitting would be easier. She pushed the documents toward Kara. You are exactly like him, sweetie. Not because you're trying to be, but because you carry the same spirit, the same refusal to leave people behind, the same courage that does not count the cost. Kara read the statements with shaking hands. Rangers she had never met describing her father in terms that could have described her actions in Afghanistan. The parallel was eerie. Her mother pulled out another document. This one knew her. And this is a letter from Staff Sergeant Chen's mother. She wanted me to give it to you. Kara unfolded the letter. The handwriting was careful and deliberate. Dear Chief Voss, you do not know me, but you saved my son's life. Marcus called me from Afghanistan and told me everything. How you crawled through enemy fire to reach them. How you carried their wounded friend. How you refused to abandon them, even when it meant risking your own life. I lost one son to this war. Michael was my oldest. His death nearly destroyed me. When Marcus joined the Rangers, I was terrified I would lose him too. And I almost did. But you gave it back to me. You gave him a chance to come home. I wanted you to know that a mother you have never met thanks God for you every night. I wanted you to know that you were a hero to my family. And I wanted you to know that when Marcus told me about your father, I understood why you did what you did. You honor his memory every day. With eternal gratitude, Elizabeth Chun Kara set the letter down carefully. Her vision was blurring again. Her mother reached across the table and took her hand. You have spent your whole life trying to prove you were worthy of your father's sacrifice. But honey, you already were. From the day you were born. He will be so proud of you. Not because you became a SEAL. Not because you rescued those Rangers. But because you are kind and brave and true. Because you are his daughter. I miss him, Kara whispered. I miss him so much. I know. Me too. They sat together in silence. Two women who had loved the same man. Who had lost him to war. Who had spent decades trying to make sense of his sacrifice. Finally, her mother spoke. What are you going to do now? With the investigation? With your career? Kara thought about Briggs. About the SEALs who had supported his treatment of her. About the system that had allowed it to continue. But she also thought about Chun, Walker, Reeves, and Okonkwo. About Rangers who had accepted her without question. About Torres who had run into flames to save her brother. About her father who had thrown himself on a grenade for his squad. I'm going to heal, she said slowly. And then I'm going to make sure this never happens to another female operator. I'm going to testify at Briggs's court-martial. I'm going to accept that Navy Cross if they give it to me. And I'm going to prove that women belong in combat. Not by talking about it, but by living it. Her mother smiled through her tears. That sounds like something your father would say. Good, because he was right. Captain Morrison knocked and entered. Sorry to interrupt. Chief Voss, there are some people here who want to meet you. Army brass. They heard what you did for their Rangers. Kara stod strijden in her uniform. Her mother stood with her. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby girl. Now go show them what a Voss can do. Kara walked out of the conference room with her head high. Her ribs ached. Her shoulder throbbed. Her body was still healing. But her spirit was stronger than it had ever been. Because she finally understood what her father had known. That courage was not the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite it. That strength was not about never falling. It was about getting back up. That honor was not about recognition or medals. It was about doing the right thing even when no one was watching. Even when it cost everything. Even when you were afraid. And Kara Voss had done exactly that. The Army brass turned out to be a 3-star general named Patricia Hartley and her aide, a major named Rodriguez. Hartley was a compact woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen combat in 3 different countries. She stood when Kara entered, which surprised her. Generals did not usually stand for junior enlisted personnel. Chief Voss, Hartley said, extending her hand. Thank you for meeting with us. Kara shook her hand, aware of her mother standing behind her. Ma'am, the honor is mine. Hartley gestured to the chairs. Please sit. And you must be Mrs. Voss? She looked at Kara's mother. I am. Rebecca Voss. Your husband was Daniel Voss. 75th Rangers. Mogadishu. Yes, ma'am. Hartley's expression softened. I was a captain then. Different theater. But I remember when the news came through. We all remember the Rangers who gave everything in Somalia. Your husband was a hero. Thank you, General. Hartley turned to Kara. Which brings me to why I am here, Chief. Your actions in Afghanistan have created quite a stir. Not just in the Navy. The Army has taken notice. Specifically, the 75th Ranger Regiment has taken notice. Kara felt her pulse quicken. Mom, Staff Sergeant Chun and his team have submitted a formal recommendation. They want you considered for an honorary Ranger tab. Major Rodriguez, explain. Rodriguez opened a folder. Chief Voss, the Ranger tab is normally earned through Ranger School, which is Army-specific training. However, there is precedent for honorary tabs to be awarded to individuals who exemplify Ranger values in extraordinary circumstances. Your actions meet that threshold. I'm a Navy SEAL, Kara said carefully. I do not want to overstep. Hartley smiled. Chief, you carried 4 Army Rangers 8 kilometers through enemy territory while severely wounded. You held off 50 Taliban fighters to buy them time to escape. You embodied every principle in the Ranger Creed. Rangers lead the way. Rangers never quit. Rangers never leave a fallen comrade. You live those words. The tab would recognize that. Kara felt emotion welling up. General, my father would have been so proud. I think he already is. Hartley paused. But there is another reason I am here. The Army is launching a new program. Joint Special Operations Training. We want to integrate female operators more effectively into combat units. We need someone to help design the curriculum. Someone who has proven herself under fire. Someone who understands what it takes to operate in the most demanding environments. You want me to train soldiers? We want you to help shape the future of special operations. Not just for the Army, for all branches. This would be a joint assignment. You would maintain your SEAL status, but work with all Special Forces units. Rangers, SEALs, Green Berets, Air Force Pararescue. Breaking down barriers. Proving what is possible. Kara looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. Then back at Hartley. General, I am honored. But I need to ask, is this being offered because of what happened with Lieutenant Briggs? Because people feel sorry for me? Hartley's expression hardened. Chief, I do not do pity assignments. This is being offered because you're the most qualified person for the job. You have demonstrated tactical excellence, physical courage, and moral integrity under the worst possible circumstances. You have the respect of every Ranger who knows your story. And frankly, you have become a symbol, whether you wanted to or not. Female service members across all branches are watching you, wondering if the military will do right by you. This assignment shows that we value warriors, regardless of gender. Kara processed this. When would it start? After you heal. After Briggs's court-martial. After you receive your Navy Cross. We are looking at 6 months from now. Rodriguez continued. The assignment would be based at Fort Benning. 3-year rotation. You would have input on curriculum, training standards, and evaluation protocols. Real authority, not just a figurehead position. Kara thought about her father training at Fort Benning. Walking the same grounds, learning the same lessons. Now she might teach there. The symmetry was almost too perfect. I accept, she said. Hartley smiled. Excellent. I will have the paperwork drawn up. She stood and extended her hand again. Welcome to the team, Chief. Or should I say, Honorary Ranger Voss. After the general left, Kara sat with her mother in the empty conference room. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. Your father would be bursting with pride right now. I wish he could see this. I think he does, sweetie. I really do. Captain Morrison appeared at the door. Chief Voss, I hate to interrupt, but Lieutenant Briggs's defense attorney has requested a meeting with you. Kada siti finit. Why? He wants to discuss a plea agreement. Avoid the court-martial. Morrison's expression was neutral, but his eyes were watchful. What kind of plea? He is offering to resign his commission. Accept administrative punishment. In exchange, you would agree not to testify about the pattern of harassment and discrimination. You would only testify to the tactical decision he made during the ambush. Kara felt anger flash through her. So he gets to walk away. Keep his reputation intact. Avoid accountability. Essentially, Morrison sat down across from her. But I want you to understand something. This is your choice. No one is pressuring you either way. If you want to testify fully, tell the whole truth about what he did to you, we will support that. If you want to take the plea and move on with your life, that is also your right. What do you think I should do? Morrison considered. I think you've already won. The story is public. Briggs is finished regardless of whether he is court-martialed or resigns. Your career is about to take off. You have the support of the Rangers, the Army brass, and most of the Navy. Testifying might be cathartic, but it'll also be painful. You'll have to relive everything. His attorneys will try to discredit you. It will be ugly. But other women need to see that there are consequences, Kara said quietly. Other female operators need to know they can come forward. That is true. Morrison nodded. Which is why this is your decision. What do you need? Kara looked at her mother. What would Dad do? Her mother did not hesitate. He would tell the truth, no matter how hard, because silence protects the wrong people. Kara turned back to Morrison. I want to testify, fully, about everything. No plea deal. Morrison nodded approvingly. I was hoping you would say that. He stood. I will inform Briggs's attorney. The court-martial is scheduled for 3 months from now. We will need to prep your testimony. It will be thorough. I understand. After Morrison left, Kara's mother studied her face. You're sure about this? It is going to be difficult. I know, but it is the right thing to do. And I'm tired of doing the easy thing. Her mother smiled. Now you really sound like your father. That evening, Chun found Kara on the firebase observation deck, watching the sun set over the Afghan mountains. He joined her at the railing. Heard you were becoming an honorary ranger, he said. Heard you nominated me. Damn right I did. You earned it. They stood in comfortable silence. Finally, Kara spoke. Thank you. For everything. For not leaving me behind. For documenting the truth. For giving me a reason to keep fighting. Chun shook his head. Chief, you gave us the reason. You showed us what it means to live the creed. Not just say it. Live it. He paused. Can I tell you something? Of course. When I saw you crawling toward us that first day, wounded and alone, I thought you were crazy. I thought you were going to get yourself killed, trying to be a hero. Chun looked at her directly. But you were not trying to be a hero. You were just trying to do the right thing. And somewhere along the way, I realized that is what real heroism is. Not the big dramatic moments. Just choosing to do right when it would be easier to do wrong. Kara felt tears building again. Seemed like all she did lately was cry. I was so scared, she admitted. Every step, every meter. I thought I was going to die. But you did it anyway. That is courage. Chun smiled. You know what the crazy part is? You saved 4 Rangers. But you also saved every female operator who comes after you. Because now commanders know they are being watched. Now there are consequences for abandoning people. Now there's proof that women can perform under the worst conditions. You changed the game, Chief. I just wanted to survive. And you did. By saving others. Kind of poetic if you think about it. Kara smiled despite the tears. I am really going to miss you guys. When you redeploy. Who says we are redeploying? Chun grinned. Walker and Reeves already put in for instructor positions at Benning. And I might have requested a training rotation there myself. Turns out we all want to be part of this new program you're building. If you'll have us. Kara laughed, surprised and delighted. You're serious? Dead serious. You're stuck with us, Chief. Rangers and SEALs working together. Breaking barriers. Training the next generation. It is going to be legendary. Or a complete disaster. Chun shrugged. Probably both. But it will be interesting. They watched the sun disappear behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. In 3 months, Kara would testify against Briggs. In 6 months, she would start her new assignment. In between, she would heal, recover, and prepare. But right now, in this moment, she was just a warrior watching the sunset with a friend. Someone who had proven that the word comrade transcended branch, gender, or rank. Someone who had lived up to the best traditions of military service. Someone her father would have been proud to serve beside. You know what the best part is? Chun said quietly. What? Your story is just beginning. This is not the end. It is chapter 1. Karasimidit. Then I better make the rest worth reading. 3 months later, Kara stood outside the military courtroom at Naval Station Norfolk. Her dress blues were crisp, her ribbons aligned perfectly. Her shoulder had healed enough to salute properly. Her ribs no longer ached with every breath. Physically, she was whole again. Chun stood beside her in his army dress uniform. Walker and Reeves flanked her other side. Okonkwo was there too, walking with barely a limp, his recovery nothing short of miraculous. They had all flown in to testify, to tell the truth, to stand with her. Your mom inside? Chun asked. Front row, along with what looks like half the female service members in the Navy. Kara had seen them arriving. women in uniform, officers and enlisted, active duty and retired. They had come to watch, to see if the system would hold a commander accountable, to see if speaking up would be protected or punished. Captain Morrison emerged from the courtroom. "Chief Voss, we are ready for you." His expression was confident. They had spent weeks preparing her testimony, reviewing every incident, every comment, every instance of Briggs undermining her. "How is the jury looking?" Kara asked. "Mixed. 7 officers, all male, 3 Navy, 2 Army, 1 Marine, 1 Air Force." Morrison lowered his voice. "They're skeptical, but listening. Your testimony will make the difference." "No pressure then." Morrison smiled slightly. "You have faced worse than a courtroom, Chief." Kara walked inside. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to her. Briggs sat at the defense table with his attorney, a commander named Phillips who had a reputation for aggressive cross-examination. Briggs looked confident, like he thought this was theater, like he thought his connections would save him. Kara took the witness stand and was sworn in. Morrison approached with a warm, reassuring expression. "Chief Voss, thank you for your service and for being here today. Can you tell the court how long you have been a Navy SEAL?" 5 years, sir. I completed BUD/S training and earned my Trident in 2020. And when were you assigned to Lieutenant Briggs's team? 8 months ago, sir. Can you describe your initial interactions with Lieutenant Briggs? Kara took a breath. From the first day, Lieutenant Briggs made it clear he did not want a female operator on his team. He told me directly that he had fought against my assignment, that he believed women were a liability in combat operations. Did he make other comments about your gender? Regularly. He referred to me as the diversity hire. He made jokes about physical limitations. He questioned whether I could carry my weight in the field, despite my passing all the same qualifications as the male team members. Did this affect your assignments? Yes, sir. I was consistently given the most dangerous assignments. Reconnaissance missions with minimal backup. Forward positions during operations. Tasks that would allow him to claim I had failed if anything went wrong. Commander Phillips objected. "Speculation, Your Honor. Chief Voss cannot know the lieutenant's intent." The judge, a stern woman named Captain Bradley, looked at Kara. "Chief, stick to what you observed and what was said to you directly." "Yes, ma'am." Kara continued. "Lieutenant Briggs told me that I needed to prove myself more than the others because I had more to prove. When I asked why, he said because people were watching to see if women could hack it." Morrison pulled out a file. "Chief Voss, I'm showing you Prosecution Exhibit 12. This is an email Lieutenant Briggs sent to his commanding officer. Can you read the highlighted portion?" Kara read aloud. "Chief Voss's presence on the team creates unnecessary complications. Her physical limitations are a concern, and her need for separate facilities creates logistical issues. Request permission to transfer her to a support role where she would be better suited." What was the date of that email? 2 weeks after I joined the team. Had you failed any evaluation or mission at that point? No, sir. I had a perfect record. Morrison entered the email into evidence. Let us move to the events in Afghanistan. Can you describe what happened during the ambush? Kara walked through it methodically. The Taliban attack, her wounds, Briggs's assessment, the hand signal to leave her, watching her team disappear. The emotion stayed buried as she recited the facts. What did you do after your team left? I heard Rangers calling for help on an emergency frequency. They were surrounded and had a critically wounded man. I made the decision to attempt a rescue. Even though you were severely injured? Yes, sir, because leaving people behind is not what we do. Or at least, it is not what we are supposed to do. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Morrison let the moment sit. Then he continued. Chief Voss, did Lieutenant Briggs know you might still be alive before he left that valley? Kara met Briggs's eyes. She saw calculation there. Fear masked as indignation. He knew, sir. I was conscious. I was breathing. He made eye contact with me before he gave the order to leave. Objection. Phillips was on his feet. The chief is speculating about what the lieutenant knew. Captain Bradley looked at Kara. Did he check your vital signs? No, ma'am. Did he speak to you? No, ma'am. How do you know he saw you were alive? Because he looked directly at me. and I looked back at him for approximately 3 seconds. Then he made his decision. Bradley nodded. Overruled. The witness can testify to what she observed. Morrison continued for another hour, walking through every incident, every comment, every act of undermining, building a pattern that was undeniable. Finally, he said, "Chief Voss, in your professional opinion, did Lieutenant Briggs leave you behind because of a tactical decision or because you were a woman he wanted off his team?" Phillips objected again, called for speculation. Bradley considered. "I will allow it. The chief is qualified to assess tactical decisions." Kara chose her words carefully. "Based on my training and experience, there was time to assess my condition more thoroughly. There was time to establish whether I was survivable. The standard protocol for a wounded team member is to check vitals, apply emergency first aid if possible, and make an informed decision. Lieutenant Briggs did none of those things. He looked at me, made an instant decision, and left. That is not tactics. That is abandonment." "No further questions," Morrison said. Phillips stood for cross-examination. He approached with a predatory smile. "Chief Voss, you have quite a story. Wounded SEAL saves 4 Rangers while abandoned by her team. Very heroic. Very convenient for someone who had been struggling on her team. I was not struggling. My record speaks for itself." "Does it?" Phillips pulled out his own file. "You had the lowest physical training scores on your team, did you not?" "I had passing scores within the acceptable range, but the lowest on the team." "Yes, because I am 5'6" and weigh 130 pounds. I cannot match the absolute strength of men who are 6 feet tall and weigh 200 pounds. But I met the standards." Phillips smiled. "So you admit you were the weakest member of the team?" "No, I admit I had different physical capabilities, but I had the highest marksmanship scores, the best language skills. Superiori canes en civilities. Strength is not the only measure of a SEAL." Phillips changed tactics. "Let's talk about Afghanistan. You claim Lieutenant Briggs abandoned you. But is it not true that he was under heavy fire and had to make a split-second decision to save the rest of his team? He had 30 seconds. That is not split-second. 30 seconds while being shot at, while responsible for 8 other lives. And you expect him to have risked those lives for you? I expect him to have followed protocol, to have checked whether I was alive before leaving me to die." Phillips leaned in. "Or perhaps you are angry that he made a hard call. Perhaps this entire testimony is revenge for a tactical decision you disagreed with." Kara kept her voice level. "If that were true, I would not have spent the next 18 hours saving 4 Army Rangers. I would have saved myself. I would have crawled to safety and called for my own extraction. But instead, I chose to help others. Because that is what we do. That is what SEALs are supposed to do." Phillips tried several more angles, suggesting she was oversensitive to criticism, implying she exaggerated Briggs's comments, questioning whether her injuries were really as severe as she claimed. Each time, Kara responded with calm facts, medical records, witness statements, documented incidents. After 2 hours, Phillips sat down looking frustrated. Captain Bradley called a recess. In the hallway, Chun gripped Kara's shoulder. "You were incredible in there. I just told the truth." "Exactly, and the truth is damning." The afternoon session brought the Rangers. Chun testified first, describing how Kara had appeared out of nowhere, wounded and alone, refusing to abandon them. Walker and Reeves corroborated every detail. Okonkwo, still recovering, testified from a wheelchair about regaining consciousness in the Humvee and seeing Kara bleeding and unconscious from carrying him to safety. The final witness was unexpected. Master Chief Rodriguez, a SEAL with 23 years of service. Morrison called him to the stand. "Master Chief, you served with Daniel Voss and the Rangers before joining the Navy. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir. Danny Voss was my squad leader in Somalia." "Can you tell the court about Staff Sergeant Voss's final action?" Rodriguez's voice was steady but emotional. "We were pinned down, taking heavy casualties. A grenade landed in our position. Danny did not hesitate. He threw himself on it. Saved 6 of us, including me." Morrison paused. "Master Chief, you have followed Chief Kara Voss's career. What is your assessment of her?" Rodriguez looked directly at the jury. She is her father's daughter. Same courage, same refusal to quit, same commitment to never leaving anyone behind. Danny would be proud of what she did in Afghanistan. I'm proud of what she did. And anyone who cannot see her value as an operator is blind. Morrison let that hang. Thank you, Master Chief. No further questions. The defense had no cross-examination. As the day ended, Kara knew the jury had heard everything. Now it was up to them. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Kara spent the time in a small waiting room with her mother, the Rangers, and Captain Morrison. Nobody spoke much. The tension was suffocating. Finally, Morrison's phone buzzed. They have a verdict. The courtroom filled quickly. Kara took her seat in the front row, her mother on one side, Chun on the other. The jury filed in, their faces unreadable. Captain Bradley took the bench. As the jury reached a verdict, the senior member, a Navy commander, stood. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of dereliction of duty, how do you find? The commander looked directly at Briggs. We find the defendant guilty. Kara felt the air leave her lungs. Around her, whispers erupted. Bradley gavelled for silence. On the charge of conduct unbecoming an officer? Guilty. On the charge of reckless endangerment? Guilty. Bradley continued through all 7 charges. Guilty on every count. When she finished, she looked at Briggs. Lieutenant Briggs, you will be remanded to custody pending sentencing. This court is adjourned. Military police approached Briggs. For the first time, his composure cracked. He looked at Kara with pure hatred. This is not over, he said as they led him away. You ruined my career. No, Chin said quietly beside Kara. You ruined your own career. She just told the truth about it. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Questions flew from every direction. Chief Voss, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you think this changes things for women in special operations? What message does this send? Morrison stepped forward. Chief Voss will not be making a statement at this time. Thank you. He guided Kara through the crowd to a waiting car. Once inside, he turned to her. How are you holding up? Kara realized she was shaking. I do not know. I thought I would feel relieved, but I just feel empty. That is normal. You have been carrying this for months. Now it is done. Your body does not know what to do with the space. Is it really done? Morrison nodded. Briggs will be sentenced in 2 weeks. Based on the verdict, he is looking at dismissal from service, possible brig time, and forfeiture of all benefits. He is finished. The car took them back to the hotel where Kara was staying. Her mother was waiting in the lobby with the Rangers. When Kara entered, they all stood. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Walker broke the silence. You did it, Chief. You actually did it. We did it, Kara corrected. All of us. You testified. You told the truth. This is not my victory. It is ours. Chun shook his head. No, Chief. This is bigger than us. Every female operator who comes after you just got a little more protection. Every commander who thinks about discriminating just got a warning. You changed the system. Kara's mother pulled her into a hug. Your father would be so proud, she whispered. That evening, Kara sat alone in her hotel room, processing everything. Her phone buzzed with messages. Congratulations from fellow SEALs. Thank you notes from women she had never met. Interview requests from media outlets. One message stood out. It was from General Hartley. Congratulations on the verdict. Your courage in testifying will have lasting impact. Looking forward to welcoming you to Fort Benning next month. The future of special operations training is in good hands. Next month, in 30 days, she would start her new assignment, building a program that would train the next generation, making sure what happened to her never happened again. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Chun holding 2 cups of coffee. Figured you might need this, he said. She let him in. They sat on the small couch and drank in comfortable silence. You know what the crazy part is? Chun finally said, 6 months ago, I did not know you existed. Now I cannot imagine doing this job without you. You changed my whole perspective on what makes a good operator. I just did what anyone would do. Stop saying that. Chun set down his coffee and looked at her seriously. Most people would not have crawled through enemy fire to save strangers. Most people would not have testified against a superior officer. Most people would have taken the plea deal and moved on. You did the hard thing every single time. That is not what anyone would do. That is what exceptional people do. Kara felt tears building again. I was so scared, she admitted. In that courtroom, answering those questions, knowing that if the jury did not believe me, my career was over. But they did believe you, because you told the truth, and the truth is powerful. They sat together until the coffee was cold. Then Chun stood to leave. Get some rest, Chief. Big day tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Your Navy Cross ceremony. Morrison did not tell you? It is scheduled for 1,000 hours at the base chapel. Full dress uniforms. Navy brass. The works. Kara had almost forgotten. The Navy Cross. The second highest military decoration. For actions that had felt like simple survival. Will you be there? She asked. Chun smiled. All four of us will be there. We would not miss it. After he left, Kara stood at the window, looking out at the naval base. Lights glowed across the facility. Ships sat in port. Somewhere out there, other operators were training, preparing, getting ready to face the same dangers she had faced. But now they would do it in a system that had been forced to acknowledge its flaws. In a system that had proven consequences existed for commanders who discriminated. In a system that had validated the contributions of female warriors. She thought about her father, about the grenade he had thrown himself on, about the 6 men he had saved with that final act. She had spent her whole life trying to live up to that sacrifice. But maybe she had been thinking about it wrong. Maybe the point was not to match what he did. Maybe the point was to carry forward what he believed. That every life mattered. That you did not leave people behind. That courage meant doing the right thing regardless of the cost. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Chief Voss, you do not know me. I am a lance corporal in the Marines. Female. I have been dealing with harassment from my platoon sergeant. I was going to quit. Then I saw your testimony. I decided to file a complaint instead. Thank you for showing me that speaking up is possible. Semper Fi. Kara read the message 3 times. This was why she had testified. Not for vindication. Not for revenge. For this lance corporal. For every woman who needed to see that the system could work. That justice was possible. She typed back a response. Stay strong. Document everything. Find allies. You are not alone. And you belong exactly where you are. She sent the message and set down her phone. Tomorrow she would receive the Navy Cross. Next month, she would start training the next generation. But tonight, she was just Kara Voss, daughter of a ranger, sister to warriors across all branches, survivor of abandonment who had chosen to save rather than be saved. And that was enough. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Kara dressed in her service dress blues with meticulous care. Each ribbon aligned perfectly, each button polished. Her mother helped her with the final touches, tears already streaming down her face. You look just like your father did at his Silver Star ceremony, she said. I have a picture somewhere. The same proud expression, the same quiet strength. I wish he could be here. He is, honey. He is. The chapel was packed. Kara had expected a small ceremony. Instead, she walked in to find hundreds of people. SEALs in dress uniforms. Army Rangers. Marines. Air Force personnel. Civilians in suits. And in the front row, her mother, the 4 Rangers, and Master Chief Rodriguez. The ceremony was formal and dignified. A Navy Vice Admiral she had never met read the citation. The words felt surreal. Extraordinary heroism in combat. Selfless service above and beyond the call of duty. Wounded in action, yet refusing to abandon fellow service members. When he pinned the Navy Cross to her uniform, the room erupted in applause. Not polite ceremony applause. Genuine, sustained, standing ovation. Kara stood at attention, fighting tears, overwhelmed by the moment. The Admiral leaned in and whispered, Your father is watching, Chief. And he is proud. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Kara was surrounded by well-wishers. Fellow SEALs who apologized for ever doubting her. Female service members thanking her for paving the way. Senior officers congratulating her on her upcoming assignment. Chun found her in the crowd. So, how does it feel to be a decorated war hero? Kara touched the Navy Cross on her chest. Surreal. Like this happened to someone else. It happened to you. Own it. She looked around the room. At the Rangers who had refused to leave her. At her mother who had finally made peace with her choices. At the SEALs who now saw her as an equal. At the women who saw her as a pioneer. I think I finally understand what my father knew, she said. It is not about the medals or the recognition. It is about knowing you did the right thing. That when it mattered most, you did not quit. You did not abandon your principles. You stood up. Chen raised his glass. To Chief Kara Voss. Ranger at heart. SEAL by training. Hero by choice. The room echoed the toast. Kara smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. The darkness was over. The fight was won. The future was beginning. And she was ready for all of it. 2 weeks later, Kara stood in a military courtroom for the final time. Briggs's sentencing hearing. She had not planned to attend, but Morrison convinced her it was important. Closure, he called it. Watching justice be fully served. Captain Bradley took the bench and reviewed the sentencing recommendations. The prosecution asked for dismissal from service, 6 months in the brig, and forfeiture of all pay and benefits. The defense asked for leniency. Briggs had served honorably for 12 years, his attorney argued. One mistake should not erase a career. Bradley's expression was ice. One mistake? She read from the verdict. 7 counts of criminal conduct. A pattern of discrimination spanning 8 months. The willful abandonment of a subordinate in a combat zone. This is not one mistake, Commander Phillips. This is a systematic failure of leadership and basic human decency. She turned to Briggs. Lieutenant Briggs, do you have anything to say before sentencing? Briggs stood. He looked smaller somehow. Diminished. Your Honor, I served my country for 12 years. I completed multiple combat deployments. I led men in the most dangerous environments. I made decisions that saved lives. One tactical call in a chaotic situation should not define my entire career. Bradley's voice was sharp. Did you or did you not make eye contact with Chief Voss before leaving her? Briggs hesitated. I do not recall. Chief Voss recalls. She testified under oath that you looked directly at her for 3 seconds. That she was conscious and breathing. That you chose to leave her anyway. Do you dispute her testimony? Briggs said nothing. Your Honor, Phillips interjected, the stress of combat creates unreliable memories. It is possible both parties remember the events differently. Bradley cut him off. I have heard enough. She looked at Briggs with undisguised contempt. Lieutenant Briggs, you violated the most sacred principle of military service. You abandoned a teammate to die, not because of tactical necessity, but because of prejudice, because she was a woman, because you valued your own biases over her life. This court sentences you to dismissal from the Navy, 6 months confinement, and forfeiture of all pay and benefits. Additionally, you will be ineligible for veterans' benefits for 10 years. This court is adjourned. Military police moved forward. Briggs looked back one last time at Kara. His expression was no longer hateful. It was broken, defeated. The career he had built was gone. The reputation he had cultivated was destroyed. Everything he had worked for was dust. Kara felt no satisfaction. No triumph. Just a quiet sense that balance had been restored. Outside, Morrison walked with her to the parking lot. How are you feeling? Relieved, Kara said honestly. It is finally over. Not quite. Morrison handed her an envelope. This came for you this morning. From a Navy Personnel Command. Kara opened it and read quickly. It was her official transfer orders. Report to Fort Benning, Georgia in 2 weeks. Joint Special Operations Training Command. Position, Senior Instructor and Curriculum Developer. Rank, Chief Petty Officer, with promotion board eligibility in 6 months. They are promoting me? Morrison smiled. You are a Navy Cross recipient who became a national story. They will be fools not to promote you. Plus, General Hartley made it clear she wants you to have the authority to actually make changes. Chief Petty Officer status gives you that. Kara stared at the orders. Fort Benning, where her father had trained, where she would now teach. There's one more thing. Morrison pulled out another document. The Ranger Regiment submitted the paperwork. You are officially an honorary Ranger. The ceremony is in 10 days at Fort Benning. They want to do it before you start your assignment. Kara's eyes burned with tears. Honorary Ranger. The tab her father had earned with blood and sweat. Now hers. Chin appeared from across the parking lot, flanked by Walker, Reeves, and Okonkwo. We heard Briggs got 6 months, Chin said. Good. It is done, Kara confirmed. Really done. Then let's celebrate. Okonkwo grinned. We found a place near here that serves the worst military food you have ever tasted. Felt appropriate. They went to a diner near the base. Greasy burgers. Weak coffee. Exactly the kind of place soldiers loved. They took over a corner booth and talked for hours. Not about the trial. Not about Afghanistan. Just normal things. Families. Hobbies. Favorite movies. Being friends instead of survivors. Okonkwo showed pictures of his niece. Walker talked about his hometown in Georgia. Reeves admitted he was terrified of his upcoming instructor assignment because he hated public speaking. Chin shared that his wife was pregnant. Their first child. Congratulations, Kara said genuinely. Boy or girl? Girl. Chin's face lit up. Due in 4 months. He paused. We are naming her Kara. If that is okay with you. Kara felt her throat tighten. You do not have to do that. We want to. Chin's expression was serious. You gave me the chance to be a father. To me, my daughter. If you had not come for us that day, I would have died in that valley. So yeah, we are naming her Kara. So she knows the story. So she understands what real courage looks like. Kara could not speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Walker raised his glass. To Kara Voss, the baddest SEAL who ever lived, and the best ranger who never went to ranger school. They all drank. Then Reeves spoke up. You know what is crazy? 6 months ago, we did not know each other. Now I cannot imagine my life without you all in it. Is that weird? That is brotherhood, Chin said. Or I guess sisterhood too now. He looked at Kara. That is what happens when you go through hell together. You come out bonded. Kara looked around the table. These men had saved her as much as she saved them. They had refused to leave her behind in more ways than one. They had stood up for her, testified for her, fought for her. They had shown her what loyalty really meant. I'm going to miss this, she said quietly, when we all go our separate ways. Who says we were going separate ways? Walker grinned. We all got orders to Benning, remember? We were going to be working together for the next 3 years minimum. And after that, we stay in touch, Reeves added. Reunions every year. Families get together. Kids grow up knowing each other. We are stuck with each other for life now. Okonkwo nodded. Rangers and SEALs. Making history. Breaking barriers. Training the next generation. It is going to be legendary. Or a complete disaster, Kara said, echoing her earlier conversation with Chun. Probably both. Chin smiled. But it will be our disaster. They stayed at the diner until closing. Then they walked out into the cool Virginia night. Kara looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other operators were on missions. Other teams were facing danger. Other warriors were fighting the same battles she had fought. But the system was changing. Slowly. Imperfectly. But changing. Because she had spoken up. Because she had refused to be silent. Because she had proven what was possible. Chin walked her to her car. You ready for all this? Fort Benning. The Ranger Tab ceremony. The new assignment. All of it. Kara thought about it. About the girl who had grown up without a father, but with his legacy. About the woman who had fought for every inch of acceptance. About the warrior who had been left to die, but chose to save others instead. Yeah, she said. I am ready. Good. Because the hard part is just beginning. Changing a system is harder than surviving a firefight. I survived Briggs. I can survive bureaucracy. Chin laughed. That is the spirit. He hugged her carefully, mindful of her still healing shoulder. See you in 10 days at Benning. Do not be late for your own ceremony. Would not dream of it. Kara drove back to her hotel. Tomorrow she would fly home to spend time with her mother before the move. Next week she would receive the Ranger Tab. In 2 weeks, she would start the assignment that would define the next chapter of her career. But tonight, she was just Kara Voss, Navy SEAL, Honorary Ranger, daughter, friend, survivor, warrior. She had been abandoned in the Afghan desert and left to die. She had crawled through enemy fire to save strangers. She had carried 4 men to safety while broken and bleeding. She had testified against a superior officer in one. She had changed the conversation about women in combat. And she had done it all by simply refusing to quit, by choosing to do the right thing, by being her father's daughter. She thought about the message from the Marine Lance Corporal, about all the women who would come after her, about the system that would be forced to do better because she had demanded accountability. Her father had saved 6 lives with his final act. She had saved 4 lives with hers. But more than that, she had opened doors, changed minds, proven what was possible. That was a legacy worth having. Kara pulled out her phone and texted her mother. "Coming home tomorrow. Have something to tell you about Fort Benning." Her mother responded immediately. "Your father's base. He would love that. So proud of you, baby girl. Karasimidit." She looked at the Navy Cross case sitting in the passenger seat, at the Purple Heart she had also received for her wounds, at the certificate confirming her honorary ranger status. But what she valued most was not the medals. It was the friendships, the brotherhood and sisterhood she had found in that Afghan valley. The proof that loyalty transcended branch and gender. The knowledge that when it mattered most, good people stood up. That was worth more than any decoration. Kara closed her eyes and whispered to the night, "Thanks, Dad, for showing me the way, for teaching me that courage is not the absence of fear, for believing I could be a warrior like you." She could almost hear his voice in response. "You're not a warrior like me, baby girl. You're a warrior like you. And that is more than enough." Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Next week would bring new honors. Next month would bring new responsibilities. But tonight, Kara Voss was at peace. The fight was won. The truth was told. The future was bright. And she was ready for all of it. 10 days later, Kara stood at the entrance to Fort Benning, Georgia. The same gates her father had walked through 30 years earlier. The same grounds where he had earned his Ranger tab. The same place where she would now receive hers. Her mother stood beside her, holding a photograph. Daniel Voss in his dress uniform, Ranger tab visible on his shoulder, smiling at the camera. Young, proud, alive. He stood right here, her mother said softly, right before his first deployment. "I took this picture. I was so scared I would never see him again." Kara looked at the photo, at the father she barely remembered, at the man whose legacy had shaped her entire life. "Did you know," she asked, "that I would follow in his footsteps?" Her mother smiled. "I knew from the time you were 5 years old. You had the same look in your eyes he did. That restless need to prove something, to be part of something bigger. Were you scared? Terrified? Every single day, but also proud, because you were exactly who you were meant to be." They walked through the gates together. The ceremony was scheduled for 1400 hours at the Ranger Memorial. Chun had texted that morning. "The whole gang is here. Even Okonkwo flew in from rehab. We're not missing this." The memorial was a sacred space. Black granite walls engraved with the names of fallen Rangers. The Ranger Creed etched in stone. Standards and flags representing decades of service. Kara felt the weight of history as she approached. General Hartley waited near the memorial, along with the Ranger Regimental Commander, a colonel named Mitchell. Chun, Walker, Reeves, and Okonkwo stood in formation, dress uniforms immaculate. Behind them, dozens of Rangers, active duty and retired, all there to witness. "Chief Voss," General Hartley said warmly, "welcome home." Home. The word resonated. This was her father's home. Now was hers too. Colonel Mitchell stepped forward. "Chief Petty Officer Kara Voss, it is my honor to present you with a Ranger tab in recognition of extraordinary service that exemplifies the highest standards of the Ranger Regiment. Your actions in Afghanistan demonstrated the core values we hold sacred. Rangers lead the way. Rangers never quit. Rangers never leave a fallen comrade." He held up the tan and black tab, the same one her father had worn, the same one Chun wore, the symbol of elite warriorship. "By your actions, you have earned the respect and brotherhood of every Ranger. You carried our own when no one else would. You embodied our creed when it mattered most. It is our privilege to call you one of our own." He pinned the tab to her uniform. Then he stepped back and saluted. The assembled Rangers followed suit. A wall of salutes. A forest of respect. Kara returned the salute, her vision blurring with tears. Chun broke formation and approached. He removed something from his pocket. A second Ranger tab, worn and faded. This was my brother Michael's, he said quietly. He was wearing it the day Staff Sergeant Torres pulled him from that burning vehicle. The day you remind me of every time I see you fight. He paused. Michael would have wanted you to have it, as a reminder that Rangers take care of each other. Across time, across circumstances. Always. He pressed the tab into her hand. Kara closed her fingers around it, feeling the worn fabric. A piece of history. A piece of connection. Thank you, she whispered. The ceremony concluded with the Ranger Creed. Hundreds of voices speaking in unison. Recognizing that I volunteered as a Ranger, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession, I will always endeavor to uphold the prestige, honor, and high esprit de corps of my Ranger regiment. Kara spoke the words alongside them, not as a SEAL, not as an outsider, but as one of them, a Ranger at heart. Afterward, her mother approached the memorial wall. She traced her fingers over Daniel Voss's name. Then she looked at Kara. He knows, she said. Wherever he is, he knows what you did, how you honored his memory, how you became everything he hoped you would be. Kara stood beside her mother and placed her hand over her father's name. I hope I made you proud, Dad. I try to be worthy of your sacrifice. Her mother took her hand. You did more than that, sweetie. You created your own legacy. Yes, you're Daniel Voss's daughter, but you're also Kara Voss, Navy Cross recipient, honorary Ranger, the woman who changed the system. That is all you. That evening, Kara walked the grounds of Fort Benning with the Rangers. They showed her the training areas where they had earned their tabs, the obstacle courses, the land navigation ranges, the memorial to fallen instructors. Tomorrow you start the real work, Chun said, building the program, training the next generation, making sure what happened to you never happens again. No pressure, Kara joked. You have got this. Walker grinned. We have got your back. All of us. Whatever you need. Reeves nodded. Besides, you have already done the hard part. You survived. You testified. You won. Teaching is going to be easy compared to that. I will not say easy, Kara countered. Changing minds is harder than changing policy. Okonkwo limped over, his prosthetic leg barely slowing him down. Chief, can I say something? Of course. 6 months ago, I was a scared kid who thought I was going to die in a desert. I had given up, accepted it, made peace with it. Then you showed up, bleeding, broken, refusing to quit. You carried me out of there, literally, and you showed me what it means to be a warrior. He paused. Now I'm going to finish my rehab, go back to active duty, become an instructor myself, because you taught me that quitting is not an option, that we fight for each other, that we never leave anyone behind. He extended his hand. Thank you for my life, Chief. I'm going to make it count. Kara shook his hand, tears flowing freely now. You already have, Jake. You already have. They walked to the edge of the training grounds and looked out over the base. Lights were coming on as evening fell. Somewhere, recruits were training, pushing themselves, learning what it meant to be Rangers. Tomorrow, Kara would join that mission, teaching, mentoring, building a program that valued merit over gender, that protected operators from discrimination, that ensured every warrior had a fair chance to prove themselves. If you enjoyed the story, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, character, or if you have had a similar situation happen to you before. Chin spoke quietly. You know what the best part of all this is? What? We get to do it together. Not SEALs and Rangers. Not men and women. Just warriors. Building something better. Creating the military we wish we had when we started. Karasimidit. That sounded exactly right. They stood together as the sun set over Fort Benning. 5 warriors who had been strangers 6 months ago, who had faced death together, who had refused to leave each other behind, who had proven that loyalty transcended every boundary. Kara thought about the journey that had brought her here. The little girl who had lost her father, the woman who had fought for acceptance, the SEAL who had been abandoned, the warrior who had chosen to save instead of survive. Every step had led to this moment, standing on her father's ground, wearing his tab, ready to build a future he would be proud of. Her phone buzzed. A message from the Marine Lance Corporal who had reached out after the trial. Chief Voss, wanted you to know I filed my complaint. They are investigating. I am scared, but I'm not backing down. Thank you for showing me it is possible. Kara typed back immediately. You have got this. Stay strong. Document everything. And know that you are not alone. There is a whole community of warriors who have your back. She sent the message and looked at the rangers beside her, at the base around her, at the future stretching ahead. This was just the beginning. There would be resistance, pushback, people who did not want change. But there would also be allies, supporters, warriors who believed in doing the right thing. And Kara Voss had learned something crucial in that Afghan valley. When you refuse to quit, when you stand up for what is right, when you fight for others instead of yourself, you become unstoppable, not because you are stronger, not because you are fearless, but because you know who you are, what you stand for, why you fight. Kara looked at the Ranger tab on her shoulder, at the Navy cross on her chest, at the warriors standing beside her, ready to change the world. Chief? Chen asked. Karasimidit. She thought about her father throwing himself on a grenade, about Torres running into flames, about herself crawling through enemy fire, about all the warriors who had chosen sacrifice over safety. Rangers lead the way, she said. Chen grinned. Huya to that. They walked back toward the barracks as night fell over Fort Benning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new opportunities to make a difference. But tonight, Kara Voss was exactly where she belonged. Among warriors, among friends, among people who understood that the greatest strength was not in never falling. It was in always getting back up. She was her father's daughter, a Navy SEAL, an honorary ranger, a warrior who had been left behind but had chosen to save others, a woman who had changed the system by refusing to accept the way things were. And her story was just beginning. The future was unwritten. The challenges were real. The work was hard. But Kara Voss had faced worse than bureaucracy. She had faced death and chosen life, had faced abandonment and chosen loyalty, had faced discrimination and chosen to fight. She was ready for whatever came next, because she was a warrior, through and through, and warriors never quit. Rangers lead the way, she whispered to the night. And somewhere, in whatever place warriors went when their battles were done, Daniel Voss smiled. His daughter had not just followed in his footsteps. She had carved her own path, created her own legacy, become her own kind of hero. And that was more than he ever could have hoped for. The end was just the beginning. The battle was won, but the war continued. The medal was earned, but the mission remained. Kara Voss was ready for all of it, because she had learned the most important lesson of all. You do not have to be fearless to be brave. You do not have to be perfect to be worthy. You do not have to be stronger than everyone else to be strong enough. You just have to refuse to quit. Stand up when it matters. Fight for what is right. And never, ever leave anyone behind. That was the Ranger way, the SEAL way, the warrior way, and it was Kara Voss's way, now and forever.